August of 1991, and the church. Sign over the front door of the church. This is Grandma Remde's house in Young America. Just a little bit southeast of the church. Hard to see from here with all the trees. Pictures that we have of it show a porch across the front where that front entrance is. And directly across the street is the Mr. and Mrs. May's house, which is the house that Mother grew up in. That house has been completely redone also. This is Uncle Emil's house, your mother's brother. And
he was a bachelor for years. So, but it was very hard. It was very hard. But we went to the farm. It was the next time over. He was a bachelor by himself. Oh, for many years. I don't know how old he was when he got married. He married his sister of Clark's wife, who lived on the next farm.
Where was the farm from here? Think you could find it? Now we're out in the Young America Cemetery looking for relations. And the grass is still wet. Mom's coming over now to the Maschke gravesite. This is Grandma and Grandpa Maschke.
new cemetery that's across the road. Wait, where am I now?
Boy, that's something. Living to be 80 years old and dying in 1902.
Was that right?
Born in 1822 and dying in 1902. But there weren't too many that lived to be 80 back in those days.
Oh, this is also the cemetery where you can see a lot of graves that are young children from the influenza epidemic.
Which was when?
1920 was seemed to be quite a few. Yeah.
I think it's like 19. Okay, we're still in the Young America Cemetery, and now this is the Arndt Memorial, which is Grandma Remde's, that's Irma Remde's mother's parents, the Arndts. This is right up in the front of the cemetery along the road. The stones face east along the roadway here. Now I'm standing very close to the headstone and then pan down to the this is the Father Franz. And then just to the left, hiya.
Huh? Right back there.
Okay, I got my grandma on the camera now. She's crocheting. What are you making?
Baby Afghan.
Who's it for?
The next great-grandchild who arrives.
From whom would that be?
Contest?
Yeah, who's it going to be from? Who's the contest between?
1, 2, 3 kids.
Who? He wants you to talk.
Oh, I see. Karen, or Paul, or Carl.
Oh, okay.
And we'll see who wins.
Who do you think will win, Lois? That's winning. I don't know. That's okay. I wouldn't want to predict that.
At this point, I wouldn't either. It doesn't matter. If I'm not around, no, he's the first great-grandchild.
The first one, huh?
And if I really am ambitious, I might make room for the other two also.
I think you should. Yeah, if that's an easy pattern, you could make 3. The problem is, she gets going and she can't put it down.
Well, the reason
It's got to be finished in 2 weeks.
well, one reason I do it so much is because it's easier on my eyes and reading here.
Yeah.
Doing other things.
Yeah, you could make 2. But then you can make 2 just like that. Because I go to 3 different people. That's
Oh, I would make them the same, sure. Sure, just make
Make them all the same dimension.
I think that's pretty with the white paper clip.
Yeah. I do too. I like it.
Oh, something I'm getting accomplished this summer. Thanks to Sandy.
Hold it up. Let me see part of it. Can you hold
You
it?
get that finished, Maybe you could just start another one and that'll keep you busy
A
all
lot of it
winter.
already.
See it?
Yeah, I can see it.
I got a lot of it done. Wow. I figured I went behind that 13, these colored strips.
13?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are done, see?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Huh.
think you need that many?
No, I
Is
mean,
it
not
gonna be
need,
square?
yeah. Well, it has to be, I can't,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make it longer, because
No, that's what I'm
not-
saying, I don't know if you
It
need
doesn't
that
have to
many.
be square, does it?
I may not need that many, but that's what we were counting on. Oh, it's all right. If I don't need it,
If you have some hard left, you know what you can do with it.
Yep, just start the next one.
Did you enjoy going to Young America this morning?
Oh, yeah. It was nice. I was real grateful to do that. See all the places. Even though a lot of it has changed. But the graves didn't change any.
Yeah.
No, those graves have been there a long time.
Yeah, they've been there a long time. A long, long time.
I wish we'd been able to find your grandpa's at Lester Prairie.
Yes, that would have been
Yeah.
nice.
Maybe we should have run over to that cemetery.
Oh, we don't have to do that today.
Where's Lester Prairie?
Well, it's not that far, much further out. Maybe another 10 minutes.
Hmm.
Well, we'd have the same problem we had before, not knowing where to look. And on a
We
Saturday,
had 4 of us, we could have spread out,
Mhm.
scoured all the,
but
read all the
even to
trees.
ask somebody on a Saturday is probably difficult when offices are closed.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder why they weren't buried in the same place. Is it on? No, I asked. So she,
We're looking over Grandma's write-up right now. It was done, and the only error we found in it is that it says 83 on the front when it should say 84 because it was written a little
for her
bit
age, I mean.
for the age, right? Right.
So you know how long it took me to do that? I started in '83, when I was 83.
But you know, it doesn't mention how long you lived in Stewart, Minnesota before you moved
Well,
to.
She said she doesn't
I don't
remember,
remember
so.
when we moved. See, it was before I remembered, so I must have been just a baby, or maybe one
1,
year
2, or
or
3 years old. About 3 years old is when you can't remember things.
Yeah.
Earlier than.
Whenever your memory starts, so that's right.
Yeah.
We were in Young America already.
Okay. But now.
But they were married in Young America and yet moved to Stewart, huh? Your parents?
Well, they lived in Illinois for a while.
They lived in Illinois for a while too.
Oh,
See, Art and Elma both were born in Illinois.
And were they born in Genoa?
One in Genoa and one in Mobile.
Hmm.
Where was your dad born?
Camden Township in Minnesota.
Camden Township
Yeah.
in Minnesota. Where's that?
Right around Young America.
Is it? I mean, so it was in that same area.
Sure.
Your dad was born there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Must have gone to the same church because my mother was in Young America. But
That's where he met her in Young
sure
America?
must have.
Oh, they met there. Okay. And where was she born?
She was born in, I believe in Oshkosh.
Oh, really?
because
So see, the Arns came to Oshkosh.
Yeah.
One of the first places they came to when they came to America. And there were some relatives there of his. And they came to the farm.
all you said here is both have been born in America. You didn't tell us where.
Oh. Well, I think someplace, you have that someplace on the paper.
I think we do. We've got some other
I gave
things
that
written
to you
down in the
before.
history of Grandma and
Who
Grandpa.
was born and where and when.
Uh-huh.
You have that.
So Art would have been, what, he was born in 95.
95.
So he'd have been,
When did Art die? What
gosh,
year did he
he'd
die?
have been 90.
What year was he
What did I
born?
say? He was born in
1895, it
95.
says.
Oh, then he'd be 90.
Almost 200.
Almost
93.
Almost
800.
200.
What year did he die?
Right.
We don't remember.
Gosh,
Oh, you don't
we were
remember.
trying to think of that the other day.
I
More than
can't-
5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But not more than 10.
Mhm.
But when you were living at home, you know, the house that we saw there, you said had a front porch, and I remember some pictures of it showing that front porch.
Yeah,
You got a
well,
picture
yeah, we all
of
sat.
you.
We all stood on the front porch. We could picture that.
You know, how many rooms did the house have?
2 bedrooms up, and 3 rooms down. Like the kitchen and a big kitchen that was like a living thing, and a living room and a bedroom.
So your
And a bedroom
folks, your
downstairs.
folks were downstairs, and your kids were upstairs then? Or not?
And we were all upstairs to sleep.
What did they use the bedroom downstairs for?
Well, they converted that to a dining room for a while.
Mhm.
I guess it was a bedroom. Probably they slept there too. I don't remember that. My mom and dad.
Probably was cooler down there in the summertime.
Oh gosh, we used to come down and sleep on the floor in the
Yeah.
summer.
You know,
Right on the second floor.
Sure.
did it have a basement in the house too?
Yeah.
Was it a dirt floor basement, or was it a
Part of it was dirt floor.
part of it?
Mhm.
The other part was concrete?
The part of it, the dirt floor, was for the vegetable storage and all that kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
The cement part of it.
How did you get to the basement? Through the inside of the house, or did it have a
Both.
cellar door?
We had inside and outside entrance to it.
Just like in Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
The cellar door?
Yeah, it was that kind of a door.
Root-
Sure,
root
this whole
cellar.
thing.
Roots.
Sounded like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your dad worked on the railroad when you were living there, right? But before that, he worked, what, at the
Creamery,
creamery?
creameries, both in Illinois and in America. Well, I guess, yeah. I don't know if he ever worked in that mill when it was there. That I don't know. Creameries is what I don't know.
Mhm. Then he started working for the railroad, and he was like it mentioned something in his obituary
Some kind
earlier
of
about us.
section hand.
Yeah, section hand, but he was in charge of pumps,
Mm-hmm.
like water pumps to pump water up into the water towers and that sort of thing.
So, see, there must be a mechanical bent in the
Yeah.
Mashke families. Well, the Arndts too, because Walter Arndt was very good with machinery.
Mhm.
He went to school someplace in Minneapolis or somewhere, and learned more about farm machinery and everything.
Mhm.
The repair. But Elmer was very good to see in mechanical things.
Well, both of your folks went through high school then, didn't they?
Oh,
In
no.
Young America, or no?
Oh, no.
No? How many years of school did they have?
I suppose after they were confirmed, that was it.
So like about 8th grade?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Hmm.
I never knew that.
I didn't know that either.
I just assumed they would have had some
High school education, yeah.
Nothing serious. Because we kids did, my brothers and
Yeah, you all went through high
You
school.
know, Art
They
and Elmer and you and
Yeah.
Adele.
We all had high school. But those early years, they didn't have high school.
Well, how old were you when your mother died then?
Well, she died in 1922, so I was,
16. So you were still in high school then,
yeah,
and it mentions that in there, but you lived with,
Mr. and Miss May.
well, before that, or did you live with them right away?
Right away.
They sort of
Well,
adopted
it was,
you, or?
see, we were kids. Those
Yeah.
days, my age children were children. Nobody asked us what should we do and what shouldn't we do.
They
And I
told you what to do.
Told you what to do, yeah.
So who told you? I mean, was it the Mays that told you, or Art?
No,
or-
the family, I suppose, made up their mind. There was, I can't remember the discussion. They kind of
But
wanted us.
Art and Elmer said what you
They
should
kind of
do.
wanted, oh no. They kind of
No?
wanted us to go out on the farm with my Uncle Art because he had 8 kids.
Well, I mean, what part of your family would be having this discussion if Art and Elmer weren't involved in that?
Mother's brothers. She had a lot of, see, my mother had family around Young America.
Okay, who were they? Tell us again the names.
Uncle Emil and Uncle Art, and then of course Uncle Albert who lived with Hector.
Those were all
My
Arts.
mother's brothers.
Yeah.
Uncle
How many?
Oscar.
Just 3 brothers?
No, Uncle Oscar was the youngest one. He went to Oshkosh.
4.
He never farmed, you see. He got to be a carpenter or builder or something.
He was in Oshkosh?
Yeah.
But the rest of them were around that area, and they were farmers.
Mhm.
Okay. So then they decided, then you went and lived with the
Well, I
Mays?
suppose that maybe they asked us too. Maybe Dell and I said no, we didn't care to go out to the farm where all these kids were. Because you
So
know what
you-
would have happened? We would have been their hands.
Uh-huh.
We had sense enough for that.
But you,
And
Della
Mr.
was,
and Mrs. May really, they always liked me.
yeah.
They would have adopted me if I had wanted to be adopted.
Oh, yeah?
They asked, and I just couldn't think of that.
Why?
At that point, I don't know. Just didn't seem like the thing I wanted to do.
Well, was
And then
it,
they didn't want Adela.
They didn't?
They just wanted me.
well, you went there alone first, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Where
then
did
she
Adele
came,
go?
She stayed with the preacher's family. They were real nice to keep her.
what was their name?
Abraham. Her last name was Abraham. And then the second year that she didn't go there, and the Mays took her too.
Mhm.
The two of us were together.
It's really something when you think about it.
I
just
know
taking
it.
people.
But then you were there
Well,
for...
they had, the see, Mays were very nice that way, because they had two of their nieces for a while they were growing up. Kept them too, because they didn't have any families. See?
Hmm.
And so they kind of raised a couple of
May's
girls.
never had kids of their own.
I still remember them, but I don't remember
do.
if I met both of them or just Mrs. May.
And Mrs. May had a sister that lived with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lena.
Yeah.
Lena.
Elma.
Oh,
Elma,
Elma.
yeah.
Elma. Yeah.
Well, what was...
Her name, Mrs. May's name was Lena, Lina.
Lena, they called
Lena.
her Lena.
No, Lena.
I remember Alma, the sister that lived
Yeah, now she was an old maid,
there. Yeah.
and she worked downtown in Minneapolis at one of the big department stores.
Oh, she
As a
did?
cashier for years,
Oh,
until she got too old and wasn't well enough to.
Do you remember her last name?
Martin.
yeah. Alma Martin.
Uh-huh. And there were a couple of brothers in Minneapolis too, Martins. They used to come out to see the Mays.
Mm-hmm. Well, where were Art and Elmer then when your mother died? Was that... What year was it? 19?
Elmer was married already and living in Young America, and Art was.
Was he already in Aberdeen then?
No, he was overseas.
Well,
that wasn't my
no,
dad
no,
died.
no,
When your
no,
dad
that
Yeah,
wasn't your
no,
dad died.
that's right. No, he was in Aberdeen already, I guess.
1922, you said? Or 20?
1922, yeah. That's
Yeah.
when she. Yeah, he
And then
was,
you were there until 1924.
Uh-huh.
Then what?
Then we went out to Arts.
Who was we? You.
Adele and I. We
Wait a
went
minute,
with
Adela
them.
moved in with the Mays with you, right?
Yeah.
After a year?
Uh-huh. And
So
then
she
both
was there
of us,
for 1 year.
I guess it was kind of because we kids were kind of wanted to go, see.
But she was younger than you,
We were
right?
expressing our opinions by that time.
So you wanted to go
We
live with
thought-
Art, huh?
To live with Mr. and Mrs. May was kind of confining.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were very strict. Weren't they?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What, in the morning, what did you do?
Oh, we had to get up early, of course, to help with housework, and of course, and breakfast and all that. Not cooking, no, she wasn't cooking.
Yeah.
And,
But very regimented.
oh, yes, uh-huh. Bed by 9.
9 o'clock every night. What
9
time did you get up?
This is 16,
You were
17 years old.
You had to be in bed by 9 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
And what time did you get up in the morning?
I don't remember, kind of early, I suppose.
Did they have indoor plumbing and everything in that house?
No.
No.
What about the other house?
What are
The one across the street? the
Oh,
one-
we lived in?
Yeah.
No.
That was outdoor plumbing?
Sure.
And no electricity in either one?
No. Oh, well, Mays had electric, yeah.
Oh, did they?
Uh-huh. We didn't in our house.
Do you have an outhouse in the back from your boat too? Or?
Yeah. Well, Mays had theirs inside their little barn in the back, the shed. So they had inside of that. But at our house, it was just, where was it? Can't think
On the
where
back
it
corner of the lot.
was. It was far away.
Downwind.
It was someplace,
Yeah.
but outdoors.
Oh, think of that in the middle of
In
the
the winter, in the
Yeah,
Minnesota
the
winter.
Minnesota winter.
Oh,
No wonder
boy.
they had chamber pots
Yeah,
to
we all
use during
did,
the
you
night.
know. Uh-huh.
Well, okay, then when you moved to Aberdeen, though,
Yeah.
talk about that. That's the trunk we have downstairs, right? That's
Those
the trunk
trunks were bought for us by our relatives or whoever. For Della and me to take our worldly goods.
Each
That's
of
all
you
we-
had one?
That's all we had.
Oh, you have her trunk?
Yes,
that
it's
she-
downstairs.
What
It's the
was
one
in that
Dad
trunk?
repainted. It's down.
Yeah.
Is
down
that
there.
brown one downstairs?
Yeah.
All we had was one trunk full of stuff. That was it.
To go to Aberdeen.
Yeah.
So you moved out to Aberdeen and you stayed
There were
with...
feather beds. See, Mother had feather beds those days on their beds in the winter. And those feather beds were stored at a relative, one of the Clotes. Belonged to relatives of Esther's closer to me, but evidently they had a storage. They could store that, and because the intention was that someday those would be Dallas and mine, those feather beds.
Mhm.
So
But
they
you never got
pillows.
any of your mother's furniture or anything
We didn't
then,
know.
did you?
No, they had an auction. Everything was sold.
Oh.
And then the money went to the 4 kids? I
I
suppose?
suppose.
Money went to where?
To the 4 kids.
Yeah, I got when after our house was sold, I got the whole sum of $400. Each of us got that.
That was back, what, 1922 then?
This is quite a bit of money when I went
Yeah.
through
Then when you went to Aberdeen, you lived with Art and Lily
Martin Lily.
first. Till, well, you were just out of high school then, right? 18?
Yeah, and Adela.
Adele was still in high school.
Yeah.
Oh, so she finished school in Aberdeen?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then where were you working then?
The telephone company.
In Aberdeen?
In the accounting offices.
You were doing accounting type work or what? Or billing and things
Yeah,
like
sort
that?
of. My first job was just counting the toll tickets.
What are toll tickets? I don't even know what
The
that
toll
is.
tickets were every time somebody made a long distance call, the telephone company had a toll ticket for that call.
Yeah.
And then those were kept, that was the record that we based our bills on. And it was my job to add them up for all the different numbers and give them to the next guy who made out the bills.
Oh,
Huh. Okay, and how long did you work there?
A couple of years before I started college.
You were, how old when you started college though?
Must have been about 22 years old.
Yeah, I was almost 20.
Or 20.
I don't know, I think I worked for the telephone company just 2 years when I started college. Well, let's see, I graduated from college in 1927, I believe.
Yeah.
okay, here's another mistake in here then.
And in the fall, I started college.
Al graduated in the spring of 1937. That's not right. It's
27.
27.
Yeah. Okay, mark them up.
I missed that, huh?
That's probably when I was typing it, I typed it.
No, I mean,
So,
So what made you
wait a
decide
minute.
to go to school?
well, I always wanted to. I always had an ambition to go to college. I wanted to be a primary school teacher.
So why didn't you take that?
Because those were the times of the concussions and everything, and I thought I had more opportunities for work if I were in the business field. I could be a teacher in the business.
Yeah.
Kind of smart there, wasn't I? Maybe. And I really could have stayed in Aberdeen because I was offered a job there too, the garage, automobile sales place. But I had got the teaching job by that time.
Where was that? Is that the one in Rapid City?
Yeah, that's the only place I
So,
ever taught.
how did you get that job? I mean, when you came out of school, did they place you in
Placement
that, or
office.
was it?
Placement office.
Did you
Sarah
interview for
did.
it, or how did? No.
Well, I suppose I sent letters.
Probably did. Maybe you had
So
on
you went off
advertising.
to where, Rapid City
Rapid
to
City.
teach. I don't remember that. Yeah.
I only taught 1 year. Al was in
Oh, so
Ohio
yeah.
and I was in South Dakota, see?
So he graduated 2 years ahead of you?
No,
or-
27, or 4 years ahead.
Okay.
She started the fall. He
He graduated.
graduated.
He graduated and then I started, see?
Okay.
He finished college, then I started.
So how did you meet him then?
At church,
Well,
Right
tell,
soon
Aberdeen.
after you came to Aberdeen?
sure.
well,
I
tell,
went to
tell us
church.
more about that now. Come on. I mean, you were 16 or 17, 18?
No, 18.
Maybe?
Well, I sang in the choir. I belonged to all the youth groups and everything.
And he sang in the choir,
Sure.
So-
Belonged to youth groups.
so you just sort of met there.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about any of your dates?
Love at first sight.
Oh,
Was it
I-
love at first sight, Mom?
No. I had dates with other fellows too.
Well, what finally convinced you that he was the right guy?
Oh, that's a silly question to ask. isn't
Here's
it?
another
No.
mistake.
No.
She's got the year I was born isn't right.
Oh.
You should know
I
that.
should know that, but like I said,
Oh,
You
I
did
typed
it
quick.
so
I
fast.
typed
Because
it
you
quick,
need a
but I didn't
pencil.
proof it. She
You
proofed
better
it.
get a pen and fix it quick.
So
make the
we'll quit.
corrections.
Is it good or bad, Lois?
Good. 2 years would be good.
What year does it say?
1936.
Oh, yeah, you're 34.
I knew that too.
I would think so.
You were there, huh?
Okay, so.
Back to the heavy romance
Yeah,
here.
yeah, we're not gonna get anything out of her on that,
I
so.
can see
we're
that.
just
No,
gonna-
we're not. Huh?
We're just gonna have to move on then.
No, I don't like to give up that easily.
Well, I had the same good
What,
times
what
that
did
you all
people
had.
do? What did people do for a date back in Aberdeen, South Dakota?
Well,
in
there were
19
movies. They weren't talkies to start with, but there were movies.
Yeah.
We go to movies. And they had school affairs. We go to school affairs, concerts, and dances and whatever.
Mhm.
And the young people at church were real active. They had one of those things.
They had a
going.
Walther League in that church.
Sure. And they belonged to choir. They always belonged to choirs.
When was it that you decided to get married? Do you remember?
When
Well,
did
it
he
had to
propose?
be.
How
It had
did
to be
he-
when you were in college, and was Dad out already? Because he taught
Oh,
in
yeah.
Brookings for a couple of years before he
No,
went to.
He was in around Yankton for 2 years, and then
Yeah.
he thought he didn't care about teaching, and he went to work for Montgomery Ward. I've forgotten what department. Then
Really? He was like a selling hardware or whatever.
uh-huh.
I think he said right.
And he didn't care about that, so then he went back to teaching, and he went out to Ohio.
But that's when he went to Ohio. So he
Yeah.
started off
He
from.
could have he had a job that year. He could have gone to Florida right off the bat,
Huh.
but he took Ohio for some reason.
I didn't know
Closer
he
to you.
worked in
No, I wasn't
No,
there.
I heard him mention that.
I wasn't in Ohio. I
You
was
were
in
in South Dakota. I'm saying Ohio's closer than Florida to South
Yeah.
Dakota.
Well, that's the reason. See, now we know. But no,
Didn't
when
make
he
any difference.
graduated, he first went down to the Yankton area,
Yeah,
and he taught for a couple of years there.
yeah.
And then he worked in the hardware or in Sears or Montgomery
Montgomery
Ward
Montgomery
for
Ward.
how long? You don't know how long? A
Well,
year maybe?
just I suppose 1 year, because then after that he went back to teaching. So.
And that's when he went to Hubbard.
Mm.
Okay. So he was in Hubbard and you were in,
Aberdeen.
no.
Rapid City.
No, she's in
Oh,
Rapid
she was
City
in Rapid City. Yeah.
teaching.
That's a long
Okay,
ways
now,
away.
how did you decide and when did you pick the date that you were going to be married?
Yeah,
Just
you
long
never
distance
know
by
when-
letter? I mean, was it?
Well, I guess maybe one reason we got married when we did is because Lois, Adela and Olive had both set a wedding date. We weren't going to let them get ahead of us.
I see.
It comes out now.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, you set the date, and then why did you have the wedding in Young America rather than like in Aberdeen, or just because
Well, I
it was
still
your home?
felt that Mr. and Mrs. May's home was mine.
Yeah, that's
So
nice.
you had it in their home.
That's nice.
So Dad came from Ohio and you came from
Rapid
South
City.
Dakota
Mhm.
You
and met in Young America and were married?
I don't know if we met, if that's where we were first, or if I came back to Aberdeen. I don't remember that.
But then you took your honeymoon when you went out to the Black Hills. Right? What do you remember about that? Anything in particular?
Oh, we had a nice time.
Well, for a couple weeks
we
or
lived,
months
no,
or how
just for
long?
a week.
Yeah.
We lived at the same home where I lived when I was,
Oh, in Rapid City?
yeah.
Oh, that's
They
nice.
rented us a room there. And they had a cabin, so we were out the river, or whatever they call it, across the river, I guess. It was nice. We toured the Black Hills. But, Al hadn't seen them.
Well, he had never been out there. So that's also when they were building Mount Rushmore, too, right?
Yeah, that wasn't finished.
No, but I mean, it was under construction. You saw it under construction. Oh, it was
I don't
great.
know, it just had its 50th anniversary this year.
Well, that was the anniversary of the
it.
completion.
When it was
Oh.
finished.
I wonder when they started it.
Well, Mom has pictures from the wedding, from your honeymoon pictures,
When it was,
when it was under construction. You could see
construction.
like 2 or 3 of the faces. In fact, I think one of them was still when they had Washington. They had Jefferson is now on the right of Washington. It was they originally put it on the left of Washington, but then they found out that the rock was bad there,
yeah.
and they destroyed that
They-
and moved it over to the other side.
Huh.
So, we had a really interesting article or TV special on Mount Rushmore.
On Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, showed a lot of those up there.
Huh.
So from there you went to Hubbard,
Yep,
and that was, let's see, what year?
32.
That's why your wedding was in June, because he'd finished teaching for the year and
Gosh, how many places do you remember in Hubbard, Lois? Houses?
In Hubbard?
Yeah. I don't only remember pictures.
2, I remember 2. 3.
How many different places did you live in?
Well, we lived in an upstairs apartment first at some other lady's house. And then when Lois was coming, we went to a duplex. Yeah, across from
Is that upstairs or
it was
downstairs?
downstairs, side by side. It was an old building. And that's where we lived the most. I guess we were still there when you were born.
And
No,
were
we
you
moved to another
Oh,
house.
we lived up on in that brick house, huh?
you were born in Youngstown too, Lois?
Yeah.
Sure. The brick house we lived in, that was a nice house.
That wasn't the one with the side porch on it, was it? We have a picture of Lois and I sitting in the
Yeah,
porch.
no,
on the
that's a
side.
frame house up on a different street. I don't remember the name of the street.
Gosh, what was the name of those other people that lived? I'm sure a lot of them that lived in Hubbard that you knew that were friends of. But there was one in particular that we went back to visit a few times. They had a house, I think it was a little more out in the country. All I remember about it was a big front porch, nice. Had a couple of kids our age, a little older than I was, more like Lois's age.
Well, we were close to some church people. Tribally was one family, but I don't know that
Yeah.
we went back to see them necessarily. Where we lived in that double house, you used to ask when they were give you some cheese and really liked cheese.
No,
So
sorry.
it was side by side. We'd always ask them for cheese and they'd give you some.
So I like cheese even back then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't too far from the school. Out top.
Why did you move from Hubbard to Detroit? I don't think I've ever heard the reason.
Because of a job.
Just a better job, or
Sure.
was it like a different,
No, just a better job.
better paying job type thing? And that was when Dad worked at the Ford Trade School.
Yeah, well, he was going to be in the public school system when he went out there to look around and be, talk about people talk to him, or maybe somebody from Ford talked to him. They talked to him to going in the Ford Trade School.
And teaching drafting there.
Yeah.
And that was 1941. That was during the war. That's the year we moved, right?
42, I think we moved at 42.
42. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We moved in that big old house of Mr. Schneeman's.
Mr. Schneeman. Yeah.
I don't even remember his first name. We always
You know, I
just-
can't
Mr.
picture him.
Schneeman.
I can kind of, I was
Yeah, I
young
can't
enough then.
really-
I was like 3 years old or 4 or 5 years old.
I can't picture him real good either.
I remember his room though, and I remember the layout of the house even at that age.
That big entryway.
Yeah,
the
the
piano,
piano
was.
in it.
And we bought that piano from him.
Mm-hmm.
We had a piano.
Yeah. So that was a big old farmhouse, and there was a fireplace that you go to the right and you go into the living room.
Yeah.
There was a fireplace right there.
Yeah.
And then you went to the east and was a dining room, or
Big,
kind
big,
of a
bay
big
window.
dining room with
And
a bay
that's where I
window.
raised gorgeous violets. That
Oh,
was
yeah?
the best window.
That was a
for
south-facing window, right?
Yeah.
violets. Beautiful.
And then the kitchen was behind that.
Yeah. And a pantry.
And there was one bedroom.
One bedroom downstairs.
Was there a bath downstairs too?
I don't
No.
think so.
Just a bedroom. Then off to the next to that. Oh gosh, what was it like a? Let's say break front. Along the wall, there was a credenza type thing in the dining room.
It's in that was in the,
Built in.
built in.
Yeah.
That wasn't in that room. I don't know what that was.
Okay, but then upstairs there were.
4 bedrooms, but you see, he had
You
one.
had one.
We had the other 3.
Yeah.
You got the big bedroom because we wanted to give you a place to play.
Yeah.
The big bedroom would have been the master bedroom.
That was the one in front of the house.
No, just the back.
Gosh, that I don't remember. I don't remember the upstairs layout at all.
Mm-hmm.
They gave you the
remember the
best room in
layout,
the
but I
house
can't
and you don't remember it.
I can't
Well, I
remember
was only
exactly
3
what the
years
room
old.
looked like.
I was only 3.
Yeah, the Lois's, we papered Lois's room, we papered your room.
Was yours in the front or overlooking the street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was mine, so was
You came
ours.
up the stairs to the left or the right?
I think my room was to the right.
Now, I do remember that room, and the only thing I remember about it is going to bed in the summertime when it was still light outside, like 9 o'clock, and then, it's still
Street
light
light.
out.
Yeah.
And I could look out the window and see the other kids playing down the street yet, and here I was.
You had to go to bed.
You made him go to bed at 9 o'clock, just like you had to go to bed at 9
Yeah.
o'clock as a
Oh,
maid.
that was when he was still little.
3, 4, 5 years old.
Oh.
Yeah, we left there when I was 5. But I remember that. I remember the big old pear tree in the backyard.
Yeah, a nice big pear tree there. And you played a lot in that backyard. You had your sandbox. And then it was next door to an alley. And on the other side of the alley, it was the backyards and the stores. It was right off of Grand River. And you used to get big cartons from over there.
Cardboard boxes. Oh,
Yeah.
they made great forts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
And that wicker couch we had in
Yeah, we got an old
basically
wicker couch from
the alley.
Oh, was that on the alley?
I think the theater
Back of the
threw it
theater.
out.
You're
Back-
kidding.
It was back of the theater.
Yeah, the theater threw it out.
I sure wish you'd hung on to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, think of what that's worth today. Huh? Big old wicker couch. Wicker came back.
She had it in Waukegan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they?
That's right, I did.
Yeah.
Downstairs.
Uh-huh. We did a little upholstery job on it.
Yeah, I'm sure it needed a
It
little.
worked fine. And that old drop-leaf table that I had in the basement, that came from Mr. Schneeman's house too. That was an old thing that they had, and that old chair that had the legs sort of cut off. That was from Mr. Schneeman's house, and we used it for a dressing table chair.
Mm-hmm.
That came from that house too. And it had a big 10-gallon crock.
Yeah.
That was Mr. Schneeman's. I finally gave that away to somebody, and then it was stolen. Somebody took it.
With the crock? Or-
Yeah.
Hmm. How funny.
Yeah, it is funny. I guess people kind of valued them at that time.
I remember a big old crock.
We used to
You
make
awake
sour,
now?
we used to make sauerkraut in it. We made our own sauerkraut.
Yeah, I remember Grandma Remde pounding sauerkraut in that thing in our house
Yeah.
in Marlow. Remember that?
Gosh.
Huh?
I remember it in the house, other house, Terry. But
Mm-hmm.
It was you that went back to Detroit, and everything is different around there now. Do you remember when we used to flood the side lawn, side yard there for an ice pond for the kids?
Yep, sure do. We did ice skating there.
Yeah.
Sure did.
You hooked up the hose to the basement faucet out to the basement window and
Uh-huh.
flooded that lot with water.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
it was low, see?
That wasn't our lot though.
No.
How did you get permission to do that, or did
No, we didn't
just
ask
did it?
anybody.
Just did it,
We
didn't
just
you?
did it. Huh?
Nobody said anything.
Where that belong to anyway?
But it made a nice little ice skating rink. And I used to try to keep the kids off of their hockey sticks. I wouldn't permit that, so that you could have it for your own skating.
Well, that's tough in a city like Detroit, where there's a lot of hockey playing done.
Yeah, but they were kids. Kids are a little different those days, I guess.
Yeah.
They stayed away.
Well, what was the
Do you
decision?
remember when you got hooked on the fence? Was it you that got hooked on the fence, or your friend? What was his name?
Oh, Joey Clark lived
No,
nearby.
not
Don
Joey.
Johnson and
Don Johnson.
Donnie Johnson.
No, it was
Danny, you got a friend named
Dan-
Danny.
Not there.
I can't remember what the
There's
name,
no-
boy's name
Oh,
was, but he got his pants hooked.
Ricky-
You were
Ricky?
trying to, not Ricky, it wasn't Ricky Valbush. It wasn't Ricky. It was
See,
another
that's
kid.
all there was.
Anyway, they tried to crawl over the top of the fence, and it was rough, there was spikes sticking up on the fence.
You got
That was a
stuck.
chain
You
link
got
fence.
stuck.
Wooden posts with cross supports, but a chain link fence.
I remember we found a turtle in Detroit once. Remember when we found a turtle?
I remember that. Remember having
So
one.
we had it for a pet for a while.
Boy, nowadays you wouldn't do that. So,
Well, I want to get back to this pre-wedding thing. How did you get engaged then? If you were, I mean, had you seen? How long were you engaged?
So that whole year.
one whole year.
So from one summer to
Sure,
the next,
sure.
and you didn't see one another that year. Then you did.
No,
You write a lot of letters?
well, of course.
Did you save any of
They
them?
couldn't make phone calls.
Did you save
I
any
never
of them?
saw any of those letters.
Oh, for a while I saved them, sure.
But not anymore.
You don't
They're
have
gone.
anyone?
Oh.
I never saw anything.
No, they're gone. They're long gone.
Gosh, when we started dating and writing, postage was 3 cents.
Well, I suppose it
What,
was.
what was it when you started?
Probably the same.
No, it
I
must have
don't
been about
recall.
1 cent then. Half a cent.
2 cents maybe.
Cross-country, 2 cents.
2 cents.
They paid you.
Yeah, right. You used to tell a story about when you were out at Art and Lily's house, and you
Oh yeah.
and Adela, when you cut your hair cut.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us what happened. I mean, what prompted you
Style
to do
was
this?
on here, right?
No, the style was just starting with short hair.
Yeah, I know, but
This is in the
See, our hair was
20s.
still long.
Yeah.
And Lily didn't approve of short hair. She kind of ruled, you know. She was
Yeah.
sort of stern to us, with us.
Yeah.
So they had to go to St. Paul for some kind of meeting. Art worked for a railroad. And while they were gone, Dell and I had our hair cut.
You had your hair cut, huh?
Yeah, well, that raised a storm.
Well-
Adele went away. She didn't live there at all anymore. She went to work for a room board.
Was that the reason, though? I mean,
Sure.
at the time?
Uh-huh,
Yeah, that's
but-
when Adela moved out, huh?
Yeah, we were living with some friends while they were gone.
Yeah.
And then I went to with Mr. and Mrs. Heinrich.
Oh, you moved out too after you got your hair cut, huh?
You see, I don't know, seriously, I went back to live with them for a little while.
Hmm.
Adele didn't, but I did.
she was really mad, huh?
Yes, they all did.
Must have
They
been pretty
didn't
mad.
like that, and then of course years later she had her hair cut too.
Yeah. When did you make up?
Oh well, we made up, she wasn't that bad.
Yeah. So
Well,
then
I
you...
stayed with him at their house yet for a while until he went to St. Paul.
Yeah.
So then he got moved, and then I had to find a spot.
And when you were in college there, you started out in education? Or in business?
Business education.
Business education. Okay. You worked at the school?
Well, the first year I just worked at the hospital, at the switchboard. Then the second year, the dean of women asked me if I'd like to be her secretary, because I had been taking typing and shorting. So when I had no classes, I would be in her office. So I earned a little money there too. Then I got along. I paid my way. Today you wouldn't do that, because today would be too expensive.
Well, you do it in 4 years. You did it in 4 years too,
Oh,
right?
sure.
Which is, see, that today,
That's
kids go
normal.
through longer Takes them longer to get through, but they can work their way
Well,
through
this is
town.
just too high. Oh, yeah. No, I did it 4 years. Finished it up. Mr. and Mrs. May offered to give me money to help me too. I said, no, I was doing all right. So.
They did.
What did he do in America?
Well, he was a dealer in livestock. He bought and sold livestock with farmers. And he had a barn down there in America. He always kept a cow and milk, every day.
What we did?
Fresh milk.
Yeah, fresh milk, a pail of milk. And they'd set it down in the basement to get the cream on top. And they'd take off the cream by hand because there was still cream in it. And then we drank the rest.
You didn't have any refrigerators either back then. Would they have ice boxes?
Yeah, ice boxes, yeah.
No.
We didn't have any in our home, but they did. We used to put it down in the basement. The basements were cool.
Straight from the cow.
Yep.
Yeah, straight from the top.
Oh yeah, it wasn't pasteurized. I guess, and we lived too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Living was different those days.
Is it better or worse?
Today?
Yeah.
Oh, the conveniences today, there's no comparison. I wouldn't want to go back to those days.
Conveniences, but
No.
some respects maybe.
No, I
Life was
wouldn't.
simpler then.
Well, probably so, but I still wouldn't go back. I've had a lot more pleasure many, many years, many, many times over. Than I had in those early years. Yep, that's how it goes. See, that's why it's nice if you can continue living in the same place all the time.
Yeah. Now, hark, my sister Lois. Hi, Lois. How
Why
are you?
taking my picture?
I'm taking your picture because you're my
Good
best.
for
You're my
prosperity.
favorite sister,
Uh-huh.
and my best looking sister to boot.
That's true.
I'm going to pan over to the right here, and there's my favorite son-in-law, or brother-in-law. Brother-in-law.
You'll never have a son-in-law. Did you ever think about that?
That's true. I never will.
Right. Oh, no.
So Jerry, fill in for that. You understand. That's why he called you.
I guess.
I guess
Right.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
unconsciously wanted to have a son-in-law.
Fantasizing,
Freudian slip.
But what's even weirder, I think, is that the fact your mother has all grandsons.